Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I've been around and even longer since I've posted an instructional drumming video, but I'm back. I have some time here. I've been really busy preparing for different things, but I'm back, and today I want to talk about something that's super important in the marching percussion world. And from the title of this video, you probably already know what it is, and I know a lot of people are out there thinking, well, come on, this is the most basic exercise you could ever play in your life. How important can it be? The truth is, it's super important. I always tell my students that whenever we're learning something, or whenever we're going through our camps and things of that nature, every time you learn something new, you've got to put it on top of what you just learned previously. Drumming is like a layered cake. You have to not forget what you've already learned previously just because you learned something new, because everything stacks on top of the previous thing. This is pretty much the foundation of anything that you're going to play for the rest of your life. There are certain things in 8 that if you don't understand, well, pretty much everything in 8, if you don't understand it, the rest of your drumming career is going to be difficult. 8 is going to make your life much simpler if you understand the correct way to play it, not just arbitrarily go through it. Yes, it's a warm-up, but it's not just a warm-up. I don't refer to exercises in general as warm-ups, and by exercises I mean 8 a paradiddle exercise, a double beat exercise. Those are not warm-ups in my eyes. Those are exercises, because you're working on something, you're practicing on something that's going to make you better. I mean, everything is built upon, all of your writing, everything that you're playing in your show is built upon these little things. So this is the foundation. We talked about grip, we talked about full strokes and down strokes and things of that nature. You have to know those are things to play on a hand, but you have to know 8 to play everything else. So I'm going to teach you the right way to play 8 because there's not necessarily a wrong way, but there are ways that are going to prevent you from getting better faster. Okay, so first things first, we're going to do 2 main strokes in this exercise. 2 strokes period in this exercise, and that is your full stroke and your downstroke, which we've already talked about in a previous video. If you're not sure about it, go ahead and go check it out so you know exactly how to play those, because those are the ones you're going to use in this exercise. So we've talked about posture, we've talked about all that stuff, we don't have to go over that. So coming to here to our set position, before you even start playing, there's something that you need to be very aware of. Before you start playing, everything that you do should be in time. Everything. So before you even start playing 8 before you play your first note, you have to be aware of the timing before you even start. So some of you guys have a sticks out, some of you guys have sticks up, whatever it may be. That's your gig, that's your line. But what I really want to get to is the prep. There is a prep before you start playing, and that's for everything. You cannot start playing anything without a prep. Okay, so with my drum lines, and I'm pretty sure with every drumline, because every drumline that I've ever talked to, there is a prep. And the prep is just exactly what it sounds like. It's a preparation to start playing. And what that means is getting the stick from your set position, because this is where you start, to a playing position. So it's from here to here, okay? So when your center snare, when your section leader starts tapping off, that one, the 8 and, so it's 5 and 6 and 5, 6, 7 and 8, and that is where you prep. Okay, at first you're gonna have to really think about when you prep, how you prep, all that stuff, but as you get better at it, it becomes less and less of an issue, and you don't have to think about it anymore. It's just automatically going to happen on the end of 8. Why do we prep on the end of 8? Because it's a preparation to play the exercise. Okay, so you're gonna come in time on the end of 8 so that you can play in time. So as soon as your section leader starts tapping off, you have to start internalizing that stuff, and prepping on 8 is going to help you get there. Okay, it's going to give you enough time to come up and play at the right time. So that's the first thing. Make sure to prep on the end of 8. Okay, so going further from there now, let's talk about the first section of the exercise. The exercise is going to consist of patterns of 8, 8, 16, 8, 8, 16. I'll talk about the 16 in a little bit, why I play that way. So let's talk about those first 8 strokes. Let's talk about the first 7 strokes first. So the first 7 strokes are what we've already talked about. Those are all going to be full strokes. or legato strokes or velocity strokes, whatever it is that the terminology that you use at your school, your region, whatever it is. Okay, so it's going to be 7 full strokes first. So it'll be 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 full strokes. A full stroke, remember, is something that starts up and ends up. That's my super basic definition of a full stroke. It's a stroke that starts up and ends up. Okay, so starts up here and ends up here. So there are 7 full strokes first. After the 7th full stroke, you're going to play the 8th one as a downstroke. And remember, that's a stroke that starts up and ends down. Okay, so it's going to be 7 full strokes, 1 downstroke. So this is what it would be like. So 5 and 6 and 5, 6, 7, 8 and 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That one stays down. Why? Why do I care if this stick stays down or not? Well, I'll tell you why. Because if you don't keep that stick down, you're going to look like the only doof out there with the stick up when the left hand is playing. So you got something like this. And then you're just stuck up here because you didn't stay down. And now people are expecting you to do something with that right hand, and you're not going to do anything with that right hand because you have no idea what to do with it, because that wasn't supposed to happen. So, like I was saying, 7 full strokes and 1 downstroke. It's imperative to do this correctly and in time so that you can set yourself up for success later on. So, we talked about 7 full strokes, 1 downstroke. That's not all that happens on the 8th note that we play on the right hand. We were talking about the prep for the right hand. Let's not forget that the left hand also needs a prep. So if we were to prep on the 8th note prior to playing our right hand, what do we prep the left hand on? The 8th note prior to our left hand, which is going to be that downstroke. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier for us when we approach it that way, okay? Because we're going to play a downstroke here, and then when we play a downstroke, we know that this one has to come up in a prep. So it goes something like this. 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 6, 7, 8. I like to kind of think about it like kind of like a jumping balloon or something like that. You know, when you got somebody over there and somebody jumps on and launches them up. That's kind of how I've always thought about it since I was like 14 years old. So that's kind of how you can think about it if you want to. So when you play that 8th note, this one's going to come up. It's going to pop up off of that pad. So 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and. See that? Again, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and. Okay, so that's the prep to the left hand. So that when you switch hands, that's basically how you're going to switch hands. This is already down, it's ready to go, and this is up to play the next note. Okay, so that being said, the next measure after that is exactly like the first measure. You're going to have another 7 full strokes and 1 8th note, or the 8th note is going to be your downstroke. So the first 2 measures go something like this. You know, just copy and paste for the left hand. So don't forget, before you even play the prep on the up, on the and of 4 or the and of 8, that's going to be the prep. Don't forget that. 7 full strokes, 1 downstroke on the right, 7 full strokes, 1 downstroke on the left. So I'll demonstrate for you guys real quick. So it'll be 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 5, 6, 7 prep. 5, 6, 7 prep. Okay, now I did something just for illustrative purposes. Don't do this. Okay, I slowed down the beat as I got to 7 and 8, just for illustrative purposes, just so you can see where I'm counting, just so you can see where the 8th note is going to come and the prep and the downstroke and all that good stuff. I did it on purpose. Don't do that, okay? I don't have a Met with me right now, but it's super imperative that you play in time whenever you're doing this, okay? You got to play in time. That's number 1. That's how you're going to be clean. You just play in time, okay? So I did it just for illustrative purposes. Make sure that when you do this, you play this with the metronome and play it perfectly in time. Okay, so that being said, let's talk about these full strokes and downstrokes just a little tiny bit more. We talked about how downstrokes have to be the exact same as full strokes, and that continues to be the case here. If I was blind, I shouldn't hear any change. So it should be the same thing as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. No changes in sound. I should think that you're only playing with one hand even though you're switching. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, make sure when you're playing this 8-on-a-hand piece that you are playing at one height and one height only. We kind of talked about this in the full stroke video, but I really need to drive it home here. You need to make sure that every stroke that you're playing is exactly the same when you're playing 8-on-a-hand. So I'm not going to play the exercise right now, but I am going to just rattle off some eighth notes here, and I want you to kind of take a look and see that I'm trying to make sure that every stroke that I play is the same every single time. It's important that you do that. And that kind of leads us into the 16 notes that are afterwards. Remember, I talked about the pattern is 8, 8, 16. So 8 on this hand, 8 on this hand, 16. That kind of drives home the 16 point. That's why I like to put 16 in there, because you really have 16 notes to just drive out that right hand and make sure everything is firing on all cylinders, everything is correct, your beat is going to the right place, things of all that nature. We talked about that in previous videos as well, about that beat placement. So that's why I do the 16 counts after the 8, 8, after the 2 8s. Okay, so make sure that everything is the exact same the entire time, even on the downstroke. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. See, there was nothing that changed until the very last part when I played that downstroke. The only thing that changed was that there was no rebound, there was no change in tone quality, there was nothing like that. Okay, so that's very important when you do it. So again, 8 and 8, and make sure that everything looks the same. You see that? That's just, I mean, that's not the exercise, but I'm just kind of showing it to you, okay, how it would go, just 8 and 8. Cool. Okay, so the next part, the 16 counts. So like I said, the 16 is really for you to really focus on that right hand, what the right hand is doing. Make sure it's going well. Make sure that everything's the same. You're not having any weird tone quality issues, any slicing of that nature, things like that. So those 16 are really there for you to just, hammer it out. And like I was saying before, make sure that everything is the same, because the last thing you want to do is look like, not only does that look weird, okay, not only do you look funny, like if something's wrong, but you get different sound quality. Everything that we do is basically to get the correct sound quality out of the drum, out of the whole drum line as a whole, so that we sound like one drum. That's the point. So if you're doing weird things, you're getting weird tone qualities. And if you're not cleaning with yourself, this is a very important point. If you're not clean with yourself, you're not going to be clean with the guys next to you. So make sure that those 16 counts that are just hammered out the exact same way, everything's the same. So just to make it clear, 15 of those strokes of the 16 count phrase, 15 of those strokes are going to be full strokes. The 16 is going to be a downstroke. I know you guys knew that already. I know, because you guys are freaking smart. So the 16th note is going to be a downstroke. So 13, 14, 15, 16. Downstroke. Boom. Okay. And that 16th one, I know you're kind of thinking about it. You're supposed to prep on the 8th note, but we're on the 16th note. It doesn't really matter. It's just whenever you change hands, that's when you play that downstroke and you get the prep in the left hand. So that prep in the left hand is going to be on the 16th note. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 downstroke, 16 upstroke on the left hand. 13, 14, 15, 16. Does that make sense? And then you go to the left hand and you do the exact same thing, just backwards. So I'm going to play the whole exercise for you, just so you guys can see what it's about. And then that'll be it. Okay, so the whole exercise is like this. The pattern is 8, 8, 8, 8, 16, 8, 8, 16. Okay, again, 8, 8, 16, 8, 8, 16. Okay, so I'll play it for you guys real quick, just so you guys can see what's going on. Okay, so it'll be 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and. the 16. Now we're on the left. That was left hand lead. Now 16 on the left. My bad. You see how that worked? So the first half of this exercise is 8, 8, 16. It's right hand lead. Okay. The second half is 8, 8, 16 with a left hand lead. So the first half you're going to have 16 right hands. The second half you're going to have 16 left hands. Yeah, so that's pretty much 8 on a hand for you, the correct way to play it. There's a lot of little things that you have to think about when you're playing 8 on a hand. It's not just something that you arbitrarily play and just to get through. No, it's a fundamental exercise that if you can't play this, you can't play anything else, because it's all based on this thing. When you play paradiddles, you're playing downstrokes and you're using mechanics that you would typically use in 8 on a hand if you go faster and things of that nature. So 8 on a hand is really a fundamental exercise that is super important for you to not just forget about. So when you play 8 on a hand, when you're learning 8 on a hand, make sure you think about these things. Obviously, if your instructor has a different approach than mine, then absolutely go with what your instructor tells you to do. Don't take my word over your instructor's. But this is pretty much generally the universal approach to 8 on a hand, is the way that I've kind of explained it to you guys. So as always, if there was anything that you guys didn't understand, or if there was something that didn't really work for you, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Ask me a question, I'd be happy to answer anything. And if it's a really popular issue, I'll go ahead and, as always, address it in the next video. Other than that, happy drumming, and we'll see you guys next time. See ya.